I'm in an office here. I'm hoping I'm not going to be thrown out.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed. That's great. That introduces a great cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, so can you tell me how it works? Because most people reading this or watching this won't have worked in a newspaper, so they don't necessarily even know that a serial thing exists. Like, what is that?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, guess if I was to go right back to the beginning, like where the process starts is me meeting with publishers, talking to their kind of press team, talking to their rights team, and finding out what's coming up. So they'll often send me a catalog or just a list of books that they're working on, and we usually work a good bit in advance. So at the moment, it's books coming out in November, December, January that I'm bidding on.
Right.
So what happens is the publisher will send me their catalog or a list of what's coming up, and then I'll go through them and make a judgment call. And I might say, can you send me a bit like the press announcement for this book, or can you send me the PDF? So once
Right.
the PDF comes in of the book, usually I've been asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't discuss it internally. In theory, I can, talk about it, but it's obviously
Yeah.
very top secret. And then I will read the book, and I'll be, usually it's kind of the first chapter, kind of skimming through the middle to the end, and very, hopefully in an ideal world, very quickly making a judgment. So if, for example, it's a big name, so if it's we've had Brooke Shields, we've had Rebel Wilson. So if it's an A-list actor, there's Josh Brolin. We're considering Michael Caine. If it, they're usually slam dunks, and you can kind of gauge very quickly that this will be of interest. We can this bit about his childhood, or it's this bit about his later years or his career.
So
um
when you say that, are you saying that you're always looking for it to be more than one thing? It's going to be it's going to be episodic. It's going to be more than one shot.
no, so it could be, so for example, it could be a very concise little section from a book.
Right.
um I'm kind of trying to think of something. So for example, we did a book recently, the Gates of Gaza, and that was about the anniversary. Well, it kind of talked us through what happened on the October 7th, and that went into the history of the war. There was lots of, what's happened since, but the snapshot I took was of that day when he was in his kibbutz with his family, having to hide in the safe room.
Right.
So, Rachel Clark is another one we did. She wrote a book called The Story of a Heart. That was an episodic one. So I literally kind of started at the beginning, and it took us right through the whole journey of this girl. She died in a car accident, and then her heart was transplanted into a very sick boy.
So can you
Um,
tell me how you do that, the episodic one? How do
yeah.
you create a series, and what calculations are you making?
So I guess with that particular one, it was it's going through each chapter. So starting with the beginning, and often the intro will be, I'll want to take the intro because the writer has encapsulated a lot of what the story is going to tell. But with that one, I kind of took a little section of the car accident, which led to the very tragic death of this little girl. Then I kind of skipped forward to the boy's family. So kind of juxtaposed between their two stories, their families, and couldn't tell the whole thing obviously, but got with the little boy, it was, I zoned in on a section about where he was very ill, and his parents realized something's not right, he's lost lots of weight. We thought it was just winter flu, but realizing actually this is more serious than we thought. And then the moment where the doctor said he's got health
Right.
issues and he's going to need a new heart. And then kind of then taking us back to the girl's story and her parents making the decision to donate the heart. Then back to the boy's story, the moment where he's kind of gearing up for surgery. So it's kind of flipping between the two and finding those key chapters and maybe just crunching them down to kind of little paragraphs almost,
Right.
because often I'm working with about 3,500 words. So it's
Right.
tricky.
And so that's the one article. You don't go back and do another thing of hers another day or another week, or it's all in one shot.
It's all in one shot, generally, yes. I mean, for example, sometimes what can happen is we'll run an extract and then we'll follow up with an interview. So Michael Lewis, for example, wrote a book about Sam Bankman-Fried. We ran an extract from the book, and then we followed up with an interview and news review a few weeks later. So there
Right.
is scope where it's kind of, a big newsy story or a big name writer like Michael Lewis to do two hits, but generally it's one hit. What we are doing a lot more of lately is joint deals with the Times. So whereas in the past we would have been maybe bidding against each other, now we're kind of teaming up, and we'll say, right, we'll run an interview on the Sunday and you can follow with the extract on the Monday, or they might run on Saturday and we'll follow up with a kind of second hit in news review on the Sunday. So we've done that, for example, Theresa May. Theresa May was one, and we did the interview in the Sunday Times magazine, and then Times 2 followed up with extracts from her book on the Monday.
So what I'm really, really excited about and curious about is how much of your calculation is leaving something unresolved on the first shot so that people really want to read the second shot. How are you making those calculations and deciding what will drive people to, for example, the Times if they've got part 2?
So, for example, we did a good while ago now, but Sasha Swire's Diary of an MP's Wife. So there was lots of really juicy anecdotes about, her husband working with David Cameron, friendship with Boris Johnson. So the way we dealt with that was, we ran the first extract, which kind of got us to a certain point in the, I suppose, in the Tory party and under David Cameron's leadership. And then, readers would know, right, we're going to get the subsequent section of his leadership. So we've had the first part and now we're going to get the second. So, and they would know to expect, well, this is the kind of writing we've had. It's a really fun, jolly, indiscreet kind of diary. And now we know that the rest will kind of take us up to current day.
Right. And because I'm really conscious that when we've worked in the past, it's been the kind of journalism that is kind of, it's almost like journalism forgets itself the next day. I remember going into early shifts on The Guardian, it's like everything had been cleared up and there's no sign that anyone produced a paper yesterday. And so in a way, newspapers are often like, there is no memory. But what you seem to be doing is very specifically driving people to a next episode sometimes.
Yes.
And does that change the way that you personally, you, Audrey, are thinking about your handling of material?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I guess because we don't want readers to feel they've had everything and that they're not going to go and then buy the book. So there is the risk of that. But like, for example, with the Rachel Clark one, where I told the story of the kind of boy having this heart transplant, there was lots of detail in there, but, there was so much more you could get, and so many questions still left untold that would drive sales. And on the Monday, often we will hear from the publishers and they will say, we saw a massive spike in sales. So it kind of almost whets the appetite. It's not going to hopefully prohibit people from buying because they felt, well, I've read that now, I don't need to buy the book.
It's one of my big obsessions at the moment is this kind of Dance of the Seven Veils where there's always more to be revealed and people are somewhat on tenterhooks to find out. And I'm just curious about what sort of, are you very aware of the kinds of techniques that open those unresolved things in the mind of the reader?
I mean, I guess, yeah. So in some certain cases, for example, we're working on a book called Sober Mama, and it's about a woman who realized she was drinking 2 bottles a night and this was not good for her relationships and her children. And so within that story, I'm going to tell it. So it's very much the prelude to her realizing she had a problem and then getting to the point where she gives up. But there's the whole aftermath. So people will be presumably interested in how she maintained sobriety, how are her relationships now. So it's kind of the first part in that journey, and then the follow-up, is the book.
Because I always remember, and I may have misremembered, but I remember a feeling that you've got to sort of fill it out, everything that's brilliant, and then put it all in the article, and like don't leave anything that anyone would care about. Don't leave anything that the editors would say, why didn't you put that thing in? And so my feeling of remembering doing those kinds of bits of journalism, take everything, but you're deliberately doing something slightly different.
So yeah, I try. I mean, obviously the best anecdotes and the best stories we want to get in. And if there's news lines, of course, we don't want a situation where we haven't covered those in the extract. And then it's, the reviews are suddenly referring to all these things that we didn't have. So we do want to fill it.
Can you just explain what a news line is for people who may not know what's a news line?
Yeah, so basically if a writer is revealing something like, maybe they had been abused as a child, or maybe they have an eating disorder, and it's something that we readers have not known. So, for example, we've got a really big story coming on the 20th of October, and it's a sportsman revealing, something that nobody knows at the moment. And this book has only been sent to me at the Sunday Times. So in that situation, yeah, it is basically the pure fact of this book, and the fact that it's been written is the news story. So it's basically telling readers something they will not have read anywhere else.
Brilliant. That's such a lovely, I know that you might be chased out, so I'm slightly conscious of the ticking clock, but that in itself, what you've just said there, is a beautiful kind of unresolved thing. Because now I'm going, what sportsman, what could it possibly be? Like, so you've opened up this kind of mystery in my mind that is unresolved. And so I kind of like, yeah, better make sure did you say the 20th?
Yeah.
Better make sure I get the paper on that day. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm really interested in. And I think it's something that people can use more in their own writing. Anyway, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
No worries at all. Great to chat.
Really good to talk to you.
All right. Take care.
Bye, Audrey.